Hi everyone, it's me Gaming 2, and today, welcome to the Buckeye State. As today we are doing the top 10 reasons Ohio is underrated. Yup, we have officially exited the Northeast and we are now entering the Midwest as we continue our I-80 adventure through reasons states are underrated. Today we are starting the Midwest with Ohio. Now, Ohio is kind of one of those states that does get a bad reputation. A lot of it is because some of its major cities, like Cleveland, get shat on to high hell. And I just want to tell you guys, I think there's a silver lining to this state. I think Ohio is a pretty good state. It's not quite my favorite state, but I think it's pretty underrated. And I'll tell you why. Okay, you guys are probably getting a little sick of me adding foods for reasons why states are underrated. Hey, you gotta admit, food is pretty good. And, Ohio as a whole doesn't have the best food culture. I'm sure it has some great places to eat and stuff like that. But, as I'm a big fan of chili, Cincinnati chili just makes me drool. This stuff looks so good. And unlike Philadelphia cheesesteaks or pork roll, which I've covered in my last two videos, I've never tried Cincinnati chili. But I want to one day. And if I somehow go to Cincinnati, which is a possibility one day, I will definitely try it. It looks so freaking good. Just the combination of spaghetti noodles, chili, and shredded cheddar, that just, as a foodie, that sounds like paradise to me. Ohio has some pretty good teams. They're not the best. Especially in recent times. An Ohio team went to like a sports championship for the first time in like 5 or 6 years when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl this year. But that doesn't matter because the people of Ohio still love their sports teams. But it's not the professional teams that matter. It's the college teams, especially the Ohio State Buckeyes. The Buckeyes fans are freaking passionate here, and it's nice to see. Now, Ohio State is not my favorite college team. That would be the Iowa Hawkeyes, but I still think they're a pretty good team, and their fans are very passionate, and I got a feeling that them and Michigan are gonna freaking cut each other's heads off one day. No, I'm just kidding, but realistically, we could see a second war against Michigan and Ohio, which, fun fact, there was one day over Toledo, and that was that. But, the college sports pride in this state is hard to beat. Some of the southern states might beat Ohio, but in the Midwest, I gotta say, it's probably gonna go to Ohio State. So, before I get into this, let me tell you a story. Last Friday, I went to the grocery store, okay, in my county. It was in a different town, but it was one of the most popular grocery stores in my county. I live in New Jersey, which has a bad reputation for having rude people. I don't see it that often, but Friday, I get totally why they got that reputation. I think they were holding an asshole con at that store. Oh my god, everyone was a freaking asshole at that store. We literally went up to some lady and asked her if she was, I think we were getting pork chops or something like that. And we asked her if she was stacking any pork chops because they were all out. Oh no, I'm not packing any pork chops. She, like, gave us the most snarly freaking bad attitude in the world, and I was like appalled how rude it was. I don't think you'd ever really get that vibe in the Midwest, which is why welcome to the Midwest, where people are just nicer than the Northeast. Ohio strikes me as being a very friendly state. I don't think somebody's going to get into a 50-minute conversation with you or anything, as in general, I find that kind of awkward, but people are courteous. They're not going to treat you like you're a nobody. They're not going to treat you like you're complete shit or under them. They'll say hi to you, and they'll ask if you drop something per se, they'll give it back to you. That's just the Midwest way, and Ohio is kind of the start of that. Ohio residents are very friendly from what I've seen. Listen, I've never been to Ohio, okay? But I've done a lot of research on the state, especially going into this video, and multiple sources have called Ohio one of the top 10 friendliest states in the country, and I can see why. It's very blue collar, and people kind of depend on themselves, and they're not really self-righteous because of that. So, Ohio residents really give me a very friendly vibe, and a very polite vibe, to the point where it's pleasant. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of zoos. I love the Bronx Zoo, which I've been to 3 or 4 times in New York City, about an hour from where I live. I love the Turtleback Zoo, which is even closer to where I live, in a particularly pretty bad city in New Jersey, but if you avoid the bad parts of it, it's worth it in the end. I live about probably 10 minutes from a miniature zoo. It's called Space Farms. And, for being such a small zoo, it's pretty pleasant. That said, Ohio has some of the best zoos in the country. The Cleveland Zoo is probably the worst impression I get. It's still a great zoo, but you always hear about the Columbus Zoo and especially the Cincinnati Zoo as being some of the best zoos in the country. And I love zoos, so I'd think I'd love them, especially the Cincinnati Zoo, where they have freaking hippos. I've never seen a hippo in person, but I would love to. And, yeah. So, zoos are great places. I know some people don't like, animals in captivity and stuff like that. But some animals just live longer in captivity. So I don't see, if it's not a good zoo, why do you have such a problem with animals in zoos? Seriously. Sometimes it can mean a better life for the animals. So, as long as it's not a crammed up zoo and the animals have enough room, I absolutely have no problem with zoos. But Ohio has to be one of the best states in the country for zoos, especially with Columbus and Cincinnati. When you enter the Midwest, you're pretty much in what I like to call Agriculture Alley. This is an area which is very rich in the United States agriculture. This pretty much starts in Ohio, as it's very rich in soybeans, dairy products, pigs, cows, chickens, eggs, just a lot of stuff you could think of in the world of agriculture. It's here in Ohio. And that's mainly because the more west you go in Ohio, the more flat it gets. And the more flat it gets, the more primary farmland you have. Which is great. That's how we get all these products on our dinner plates. And it's very important. That's why I put that as a big reason why Ohio is underrated. Because agriculture is a very important part of this country. And most places in the world in general. Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. What do they all have in common? They all start with the letter C. But also, they are the three biggest cities in the state of Ohio. And Columbus is actually a lot bigger than both Cincinnati and Cleveland, surprisingly, with a population of over 900,000 people. But, that surprised me. I always thought Cleveland was the biggest city, but it's not. Let's go from north to south, and we'll start with Cleveland, which is a pretty decent city. It's got a pretty good downtown, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame area is really good. That's where all the sports venues are and stuff like that. At least one of them is. I forgot what it was called, but Cleveland has some garbage areas, some absolute garbage areas that are disgusting, like Detroit level of bad, which is not good, and I don't think I'd ever venture into the suburbs of Cleveland. Rather, I would just stay downtown pretty much. But it's not to say I'd never go to Cleveland. I probably would. I have some reason I want to go there. I'm a huge rock and roll fan, and it's on Lake Erie. I think it's the only city in the state, alright, the only city of the three C's city that's on the Great Lakes, and I love the Great Lakes. But Cleveland, if you stay in the downtown area, is pretty freaking good. Columbus is very safe, a lot safer than Cleveland, but I don't get as much of a reason to want to go there maybe outside of the zoo. I don't know. Kind of the same with Cincinnati. I'd probably pick Cincinnati over Columbus just because of the chili. I might want to go there maybe to see an Ohio State game. I don't know. But Cleveland probably has many problems as it has with its dangerous areas. Cincinnati, I think, is kind of in the middle where it has some dangerous areas, but it's mostly pretty safe. I think I like both the major cities in Pennsylvania more than any of the three C's personally, but that's not to say there aren't good things about them, especially the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Lake Erie and stuff like that. Columbus has the Columbus Zoo and Ohio State University, and Cincinnati has the zoo and Skyline Chili. And it's probably the prettiest of the three cities. But Ohio, in general, has three pretty good major cities. Sure, New Jersey has Six Flags Great Adventure, and Pennsylvania has Knoebels and Dorney and Hershey Park. But Ohio has gotta be one of, if not the best state for theme parks. Well, Florida and California might be above that, but it's probably the third best. I'm not a huge theme park lover, I'll full-heartedly admit it, but if you are, Ohio is a state that is not going to disappoint you, because it has Kings Island and, of course, Cedar Point. Two of the best theme parks in the world, period. And if you're a theme park lover and you've never been there, go. Seriously. They are two of the best theme parks in the country, if not the entire world, and I'm not that big of a theme park lover, but these rides seem so freaking cool that even I kind of want to go one day. Yeah, that's right. You did read that correctly. Ohio is rated the 7th safest state in the country. And it's safer than any state outside of the northeastern region of the country. And to an extent, it's a little bit shocking. Because you look at cities like Dayton and Cleveland and East Cleveland, and there's a fair amount of other cities that you should probably avoid at all costs. But then I went and thought, you know what? Ohio has so many great, wonderful people with so many wonderful little towns and stuff like that that I started to believe it a little more. And it seems to have a lot of law enforcement in the state, even though it is only 26th. It seems like they do their job well, so overall, I do agree. Ohio seems like a pretty safe state, but I am a little bit shocked that it's 7th in the nation. Maybe safest in the Midwest, I could probably agree with that, but it is a little bit shocking. Yes, guys, Ohio is not just cornfields. Hard to believe, huh? Hard to believe that there's places like Cuyahoga Valley National Park, or the southern part of Ohio, which is actually very hilly, and pretty much all the eastern side of Ohio near the Pennsylvania border. Ohio is not going to win any of the prettiest states in the country contests. But that's not to say there's nothing. The beach by Cedar Point is actually very nice for a Great Lakes beach. The southern part of Ohio can get very pretty in the fall and has rolling hills. Same with pretty much the eastern part of the state. But the peak of the nature here is going to be Cuyahoga Valley National Park. This waterfall is nice, but there are waterfalls here that are breathtaking, and I saw a picture. I didn't believe it was in Ohio, but it is. So, anybody who says Ohio is just a state that has constant freaking cornfields and boringness to it and no wildlife and stuff like that, well, I hate to argue with you, but you're kind of wrong. Alright, this may be a weird number one and a weird... just mainly that it's number one. It may be shocking, but to me, this is the number one reason I'd like to go to this state. Number one is the Ohio State Reformatory. I am a pretty big fan of the paranormal and ghosts and stuff like that, and haunted prisons, kind of. And Alcatraz is cool, but I think this may be the coolest haunted prison in the country. Holy frick. I watched some BuzzFeed ghost video about them going here one day, and it was terrifying. Absolutely. I'd love to go on a night tour here. It would just be so awesome, to the point where this is the number one place in the state. Probably, if not above, but it might be right next to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Ohio State Reformatory is just a place I'd love to tour at night with an EVP or something like that, and it would just be so freaking fascinating, it's not even funny. And that's about it, guys. Ohio is a pretty underrated state. It's not my favorite state in the nation, as it does have some dangerous cities and stuff like that. But people crap on this state a lot, and I don't think it deserves it nearly as much. It's got a lot of good about it, and I gave you my reasons why I think it's underrated. So I hope you guys like this video. If you're wondering where we're going next, well, I-80 is going to take us on the route to the Hoosier State next, Indiana. So stay tuned next week for the next Reasons Why States is Underrated video on the top 10 reasons why Indiana is underrated. Gaming 2 here. See you later. Bye.